Some snacks are not just eaten, they are tied to a memory. And Cracker Jack is one of them. You might find it in the stands at a baseball game, at a summer fair, or in the hands of a child eagerly digging through the box to see what prize is inside today. Inside each box are crunchy caramel-coated popcorn, rich salty peanuts, and a small prize tucked away inside. That simple but very recognizable combination has helped Cracker Jack stay around for more than 130 years. So how is Cracker Jack made in a factory? And why did the small prize inside become such an important part of the brand? Let's step onto the production line and see how each box of Cracker Jack is made. It started in 1893 with a gentleman named Rueckheim. He wowed the crowd with Cracker Jack at the Chicago World's Fair. It was a huge success. A few years later, his brother Louis perfected the recipe, and that same recipe is still used today. To create its signature light, crunchy popcorn texture, Cracker Jack starts with a very specific type of corn called Zea mays everta. This is the only type of corn that can pop into popcorn, and the secret lies in the structure of each tiny kernel. Compared with regular corn, Zea mays everta kernels are smaller, harder, and have an outer hull strong enough to hold in steam pressure until just the right moment. In the world of popcorn, there are two main popping shapes. The first is butterfly popcorn, which opens up into uneven wing-like pieces, the kind you often see at movie theaters. The second is mushroom popcorn, which pops into a firmer, rounder shape, almost like a small mushroom. And this mushroom-style popcorn is the type Cracker Jack chooses, because its round, even shape helps it hold up better during the caramel coating process without breaking apart too easily. At the Cracker Jack factory in Grand Rapids, Michigan, everything begins with a truck loaded with freshly harvested corn from the field. When it reaches the storage area, about 150 million kernels are unloaded from each trailer, then moved into these large grain bins. Altogether, the bins can hold up to 3.2 million pounds. At harvest, the corn usually has a moisture level of about 16 to 20%. That is a little too high, so to bring it down to around 14%, the crop is treated inside these large bins by pushing warm air through the grain to speed up the drying process. Once a bin is filled, a heater fan at ground level pushes warm air upward through a raised perforated floor and through the pile of corn, pulling moisture out as the air rises. At the bottom, sweep augers keep moving the wetter grain toward the center, where a vertical auger carries it up through a moisture tester, then spreads it back across the top. This keeps the entire pile of corn constantly moving and mixing. Moisture monitoring cables also run through the grain, with sensors placed every 3 feet. These sensors send moisture data directly to the system, allowing it to automatically turn the heater fan on or off and adjust to whatever weather is happening outside. All of this equipment has one goal: to bring the corn's moisture level down from around 20% after harvest to about 14 to 13%. That is the range that helps the kernels pop to their best potential. If the kernels are too dry, they will not pop well and may be left behind as unpopped kernels, the little rocks you sometimes find in the bag. If the kernels have too much moisture, they may pop unevenly when they expand. When the kernels reach the right moisture level, underfloor augers move the corn into the factory, where the kernels are sorted by size, shape, color, and cleanliness. Defective kernels or kernels that are too small are sent off to be used as animal feed. Inside the plant, the kernels pass through a series of screens, similar to mesh panels with different opening sizes. This equipment separates the corn from any foreign material, such as dust, small stones, or bits of plant debris. The screens are designed to let only certain kernel sizes pass through, helping keep the batch consistent. Next, the corn goes through an air aspiration process to remove fine material, such as dust or loose husk pieces. Ventilation systems pull away the lighter particles, leaving behind cleaner kernels. The final inspection stage is the color sorter. This machine checks each kernel as nearly 1 million kernels pass through every minute. Under optical cameras, any kernel that is chipped, off-color, or too pale is detected. Then, a very fast puff of air knocks it out of the stream in mid-air, removing it from the batch. After the corn has been cleaned and brought to the right moisture level, the kernels are sent to the popcorn popper. Here, a small amount of oil and water is added to help transfer heat more evenly. From a hopper above, the corn is fed continuously into the popping chamber, where the temperature quickly rises to about 450 degrees Fahrenheit. As each kernel heats up, the small amount of moisture inside begins to turn into steam. But that steam cannot escape right away, because the outer hull of the kernel is too hard and tightly sealed. Pressure keeps building inside, almost like a tiny pressure cooker that has been locked shut. In the final few seconds, the hull is put under heavy pressure. And when it can no longer hold, the kernel pops open. The soft starch inside expands instantly, turns inside out, and sets into a white, light, fluffy piece of popcorn. This process happens continuously inside the machine. Thousands of kernels are heated, popped, and released from the popping chamber almost at the same time, creating a steady stream of hot, crisp popcorn. With the mushroom-style popcorn used for Cracker Jack, each kernel can expand to about 30 to 33 times its original size. Every day, to make the familiar boxes of Cracker Jack, the factory has to pop about 10 tons of popcorn, while also using thousands of pounds of caramel and around 13,000 pounds of peanuts. But before the caramel can coat each piece of popcorn, it has to be cooked into a mixture with the right thickness, color, and stickiness. The recipe starts with sugar, corn syrup, molasses, water, salt, and a small amount of vegetable oil. The liquid ingredients are first pumped into a large industrial cooker. As the mixing blades begin to turn, the sugar and corn syrup blend together, forming a thick, glossy syrup. The temperature is then gradually raised, causing the water in the mixture to evaporate little by little. The caramel is cooked to about 280 degrees Fahrenheit, a temperature that helps the coating become dry, crisp, and firmly attached to each piece of popcorn once it cools. As the syrup thickens, it also becomes heavier, more viscous, and changes color from pale yellow to amber brown. When the caramel reaches the right point, a small amount of vegetable oil and salt is mixed evenly into the batch. The oil helps give the coating a smoother shine, while also helping the popcorn pieces separate after mixing, instead of sticking together in large clumps. But Cracker Jack is not just caramel-coated popcorn. To create that familiar sweet and salty flavor in every box, another ingredient is prepared at the same time: crunchy, rich peanuts. Every day, large bulk bags holding about 2,000 pounds of shelled peanuts are brought into the factory. Unlike many snacks that use regular dry-roasted peanuts, the peanuts in Cracker Jack are fried to give them a stronger aroma, a crispier texture, and a richer flavor. First, the peanuts are lifted into a hopper system. From there, they are shaken evenly into metal baskets to get ready for cooking. The baskets full of peanuts are lowered into hot water for a few minutes. This step helps the peanuts develop a better crunch after frying, while also tightening the surface so the inside does not dry out too much. After soaking, the peanut baskets are lifted out and allowed to drain. The peanuts are then poured onto a conveyor and transferred into a new set of frying baskets. At this point, the peanuts go straight into a hot oil vat, where they are fried for several minutes until they reach the right color and crunch. When fried properly, the peanuts turn a nice golden color, crisp on the outside while still keeping their rich, nutty flavor inside. Finally, they are lifted out of the oil, drained on a conveyor, and coated with a thin layer of salt. After the popcorn and peanuts have been prepared separately, they are sent into an industrial mixing drum at a preset ratio. The popcorn is light and airy, while the peanuts are heavier, so the system has to feed them in evenly to keep the peanuts from collecting in one spot. As the drum begins to rotate, the popcorn and peanuts are gently tumbled together continuously. Then, from the cooker, the hot caramel is pumped through heat-resistant pipes to the mixing area. There, the popcorn and peanuts are already waiting. As the glossy brown caramel is sprayed in, the mixing paddles begin turning continuously, coating the light white popcorn and turning it into the shiny golden brown base of Cracker Jack. After the popcorn and peanuts are evenly coated with the hot, glossy caramel, the Cracker Jack mixture continues onto the cooling room. At this stage, the caramel is still soft and sticky, so if the mixture were left alone, the popcorn pieces could stick together in large clumps. To prevent that, they pass through a breakup drum that slowly rotates continuously. Inside the drum, paddles gently lift, turn, and separate the popcorn pieces from one another. This allows the caramel to cool gradually while keeping each piece of Cracker Jack separate, crisp, and evenly coated. As the temperature drops, the caramel begins to harden, forming a thin, glossy, amber-brown shell around each piece of popcorn and each peanut. After the caramel coating has cooled and hardened, the Cracker Jack is moved to the packaging area. The Cracker Jack goes onto an automatic weighing system. The machine divides the product into precise portions based on the weight of each bag or box. Each portion has to include the right amount of popcorn, caramel coating, and peanuts, while still matching the weight printed on the package. Once weighed, each portion of Cracker Jack drops into a filling hopper and is placed into a paper box. One detail that makes Cracker Jack stand out from many other snacks is not just the caramel or the peanuts, but the small prize hidden inside each package. After the Cracker Jack has been weighed and is ready to go into the packaging, the system adds a small prize, often a sticker, picture card, puzzle, or lightweight collectible item. These prizes are produced separately and safely sealed in a thin wrapper so they do not come into direct contact with the food. In 1915, a series of baseball cards was once placed inside Cracker Jack packages. Some of those cards have recently sold for around $800,000. So they are highly collectible, and for some people, extremely valuable. And today, Cracker Jack is sold at every Major League Baseball stadium, as well as many minor league ballparks. For generations, opening a box of Cracker Jack has not just been about eating caramel popcorn. It has also been about finding out what secret prize is inside this time. That small detail helped turn Cracker Jack from a simple snack into a familiar part of baseball summer fairs and American childhood memories. Thank you for watching Food Tech Today. I'll see you in the next episode. From familiar chocolate bars to crunchy molasses chips, the world of sweets always has a way of making us curious. On the outside, there's a smooth, sweet, glossy layer of chocolate. On the inside, there's a crisp molasses candy center made from molasses, sugar, butter, and corn syrup. When these two parts come together, they create a candy that's crunchy, sweet, and full of rich chocolate flavor. So how are these molasses chips made in a factory? Today, we're stepping onto the production line to see how simple ingredients are turned into a sweet snack that has been loved for decades. After the molasses chips recipe was created in 1949, See's Candies turned this crunchy chocolate-covered candy into a familiar part of their production line. Inside their factory in Los Angeles, See's makes more than 60 million molasses chips every year. The most important ingredient, of course, is molasses. Each year, See's uses about 20,000 pounds of molasses just for this chip. The molasses is cooked with butter, sugar, and corn syrup to create the candy base, giving it a deep sweetness, a warm aroma, and a slightly dark color. But the ingredient that gives molasses chips their special texture is actually something very familiar: sodium bicarbonate, better known as baking soda. You could call it See's secret weapon. When it's added to the hot candy mixture, the baking soda creates a reaction that makes the candy expand, forming tiny air pockets inside. Those small pockets are what create the honeycomb-like center, giving the candy its crisp, snappy texture and making it different from many other chocolate-covered candies. These ingredients are cooked in the original copper kettles dating back to 1949. Each batch produces about 100 pounds of candy. First, molasses, sugar, corn syrup, and butter are added to the kettle, then slowly heated until everything comes together into a thick, glossy, amber-brown mixture. For about 5 minutes, the candy mixture is constantly stirred and carefully monitored until it reaches the right consistency. Once the mixture is ready, baking soda is added. As soon as it touches the hot candy, the baking soda triggers a reaction that makes the candy expand very quickly. Tiny air bubbles get trapped inside, creating a honeycomb-like structure filled with small pockets. This is what gives the candy its signature crisp, airy crunch. The mixture continues cooking for about 2 more minutes. Once it's done, the thick candy flows out of the kettle at a very hot temperature, around 295 degrees Fahrenheit. From there, the hot candy is poured onto cooling surfaces and quickly spread into a thin layer so it can cool evenly. But for molasses chips to become a finished candy, the crunchy center is only half the story. The other half is the chocolate coating on the outside, which plays a big role in the final flavor when you bite into each piece. For C's, chocolate is not just a sweet shell wrapped around the crisp candy center. It's a carefully controlled recipe that brings together cacao, sugar, milk, cocoa butter, and a few other ingredients that help round out the flavor. To create the right chocolate flavor, C's brings 132-pound bags of cacao directly into the factory. Once they reach the production area, the cacao is poured into cleaning equipment to remove dust and any unwanted impurities. From there, it moves into the roasting room, where the cacao beans begin the first step in a complex process that develops their aroma and rich chocolate flavor. Roasting is a careful stage, because the level of roast can change the compounds inside the beans and affect the final flavor of the chocolate. Roasting does more than develop flavor in the cacao beans. It also dries out the outer shell, making it more brittle and easier to separate from the center inside. Once the beans are roasted, the goal is to get to the small pieces inside, known as cacao nibs. These are the parts that will be ground and processed to make chocolate. To separate the nibs, the cacao beans go through a step with a slightly unusual name: winnowing, or more simply, shell separation. Inside the winnowing machine, the roasted cacao beans are dropped in and spun quickly inside the chamber. As they hit the walls of the machine, they crack open and break into smaller pieces. The lighter outer shells separate from the heavier nibs inside. As the mixture falls, airflow inside the machine pulls the light shells away, while the cacao nib pieces are collected and kept for the next stage. These cacao nibs are then sent to be ground. When they are ground with enough force, the natural fat inside the cacao begins to release. That fat is what turns the mixture from dry pieces into a thick liquid paste. This mixture is called cocoa liquor. The name may sound like alcohol, but there is no alcohol in it. It is simply pure cacao in liquid form, made up of 2 main parts: cocoa solids and cocoa butter. But pure cacao is usually very bitter. So to turn it into a more enjoyable chocolate, the factory adds sugar. Along with the sugar, they also add a small amount of vanilla. The vanilla does not make the chocolate taste strongly like vanilla. Instead, it helps round out the chocolate flavor, making it more aromatic and less sharp. After that, all the ingredients are sent into a mixer. At this stage, the mixture is still quite thick, sticky, and a little coarse, almost like wet concrete. But this is only the beginning. Next, the mixture goes through a refining machine. The goal is to make the cacao and sugar particles so small that your tongue can barely detect any graininess. Once the particles are small enough, the chocolate becomes smooth, soft, and able to melt in your mouth. After the chocolate mixture has been finely refined, it still needs one important step to reach its finished flavor. That step is called conching. Conching is a process that heats, mixes, and exposes the chocolate to air at the same time. During this stage, unwanted sour, sharp, or acidic notes begin to evaporate. At the same time, the sugar and cacao continue to soften and blend more evenly with the cocoa butter. Once conching is complete, the chocolate returns to a liquid form and is pumped into stainless steel tanks. From the outside, the surface may look still, but the chocolate is actually moving very slowly. Its flow is so smooth that it is almost impossible to see with the naked eye. But even though the chocolate is now liquid and smooth, it still cannot go straight into the coating machine. The reason comes down to cocoa butter. the fat in cocoa butter can crystallize in several different ways. If unstable crystals form, the chocolate may develop a dull white layer on the surface after it cools, known as fat bloom. To prevent this, the chocolate has to go through tempering or controlled heat treatment. First, the chocolate is heated to about 113 degrees Fahrenheit to break down the existing crystals. Then, it is cooled in a controlled way while being stirred continuously, allowing the cocoa butter to form the right stable crystals. Only when it reaches this state is the chocolate ready to become the outer coating. At this point, the cooked candy has also cooled down, turning into a soft, pliable batch of candy. First, the candy mass is sent into a kneading machine, where it is continuously folded, pressed, and flattened. This step not only makes the candy more uniform, but also breaks up any large air pockets that may still be trapped inside. As the kneading machine works, some of the air is pushed out, while a small amount of new air is also worked into the candy. After that, the candy moves into a pulling machine, where it is worked even further. The constant stretching motion helps bring more air into the candy, while also releasing some of the gas left over from the sodium bicarbonate reaction. Once the texture reaches the right point, this large, soft candy mass moves along a conveyor belt toward a series of rollers. Here, the rollers begin pressing the sticky candy flat, turning it from a thick, heavy slab into thinner, more even sheets. The molasses candy then begins the shaping stage. Here, a chip-forming machine scores lines across the surface of the candy at a speed of about 500 pieces per minute. Instead of cutting the pieces all the way through right away, the machine creates precise dividing lines. These lines allow the sheet of candy to be broken into small, even pieces in the next step. After being scored and separated into smaller pieces, the molasses centers are arranged by workers in rows and spread evenly across the conveyor. From there, they enter a 300-foot-long cooling tunnel. Inside, controlled airflow pulls heat out of the candy, allowing the surface to dry and harden to the right level. This ensures the centers are no longer hot enough to melt the chocolate coating that will go on the outside. Here, the chips move along the conveyor and pass directly under a steady shower of chocolate flowing down from above. The tempered chocolate coats the entire surface, surrounding the crunchy center with a thin outer layer. After the first coating, the molasses chips still need more time to cool before they receive the second layer of chocolate. This step helps the first coating set and stick firmly to the crunchy center inside. That way, when the second layer is added, the finished candy gets the right thickness, shine, and bite. While the chocolate is still soft, a gentle stream of air is blown across the surface to remove any extra chocolate and create the signature pattern on each chip. In just 1 year, about 800,000 pounds of chocolate are used to coat these candies. The finished product is made up of about 60% chocolate, wrapped around the crunchy molasses center inside. And in the simplest way possible, that means 60% chocolate, 40% crunch, and 100% good enough to make it very hard to stop at just one piece. Have you ever tried molasses chips? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. With so much to handle every day, busy people often rely on convenient foods to make meals faster. Today, you can keep packs of fully cooked Bologna in the fridge, so there is always something ready for sandwiches, breakfast dishes, pan-fried meals, and other quick bites. And even though almost everyone has tried Bologna, not many people know what actually goes into this mealtime meat. So today, we're heading inside the factory to see exactly how Bologna is made. First, everything starts with choosing the right kind of meat. When a batch of meat arrives at the factory, the quality control manager records the lot code, so it can be traced later if needed. Then he checks the temperature of the meat as soon as it comes off the truck. The meat has to be kept chilled below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to be properly preserved during transportation. Every day, many trucks like this move in and out of the factory, carrying rows of containers filled with different kinds of meat, from chicken, beef, and pork to semi-fatty cuts and fatty cuts. These higher fat parts are especially important in sausage production because they help create richness, softness, and a smooth texture after the meat is ground. This factory produces about 25 tons of meat each day, making many different kinds of processed meat, from sausages and deli meats to convenient packaged products. But in today's video, we're only focusing on one familiar item: Bologna. After the batch of meat passes the temperature check and is brought into the factory, it is moved into the cold prep area. This is where the meat begins the trimming and sorting process, meaning it is classified, cut, and prepared according to the formula for each type of Bologna. On large stainless steel tables, workers inspect each block of meat. Parts that do not meet the standard, such as tough tendons, large blood vessels, chewy membranes, small bone fragments, bruised areas, or fat that is not suitable, are removed. If the piece of meat is large, the worker cuts it into smaller pieces. Next, the meat is separated into different groups. The lean meat provides structure and protein for the Bologna. The semi-fatty meat helps create softness, juiciness, and a light fatty feel when eaten. The fatty meat is used in a controlled amount so the Bologna does not turn out dry. For this type of Bologna, the factory uses a blend of about 60% beef and 40% pork. But no matter what meat ratio is used, the balance between lean meat and fat has to be weighed very precisely. After that, the different meats are fed into the coarse grinder according to the exact ratio in the formula. Inside the machine, large screw augers continuously push the blocks of meat forward, forcing them through a metal plate with evenly spaced cutting holes. Sharp blades spin at 5,000 revolutions per minute. To put that into perspective, aircraft turbine blades spin at around 7,000 revolutions per minute. The size of each hole in this plate determines how large the meat pieces will be after grinding. As the meat comes out, it forms small strands about 1/4 inch thick, almost like short meat noodles. This step helps break down the original structure of the meat, so the lean parts and fatty parts can mix more evenly in the next stages. However, at this point, the mixture is still fairly coarse and does not yet have the smooth texture that Bologna is known for. That is why, throughout the grinding process, the temperature of the meat has to be carefully controlled and kept below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. After the coarse grinding step, the chilled tubs of ground meat are moved to the mixing area. Here, the meat is poured into industrial mixers. Inside each machine are large rotating shafts fitted with paddle-style mixing blades. As the machine runs, the paddles slowly lift, fold, and turn the meat mixture, helping the lean meat, fat, and semi-fatty meat spread evenly throughout the batch. Once the coarse ground meat goes into the mixing tub, the formula starts to come together. Salt, spices, ice water, and texture-supporting ingredients are added in carefully weighed amounts. The salt helps draw protein out of the meat, giving the mixture elasticity and helping it bind. The ice water keeps the mixture cold, preventing the fat from softening and separating too early. Meanwhile, spices such as pepper, garlic, onion, mustard, or paprika create the familiar flavor of Bologna. A small amount of curing salt containing nitrite is also added to help create the familiar pink color and the distinct flavor of deli meat. Some binders, such as soy protein or starch, may also be added to help the Bologna slices stay firm and smooth. Everything is mixed together in the large tub until the meat, fat, spices, and ice water are evenly distributed. This is when the mixture begins to change from loose ground meat into a cold, sticky base. Next, the meat mixture moves to the fine grinding step. This is one of the most important stages for creating the smooth surface that Bologna is known for. The coarse ground meat is loaded into a high-speed cutter, often called a bowl cutter, and processed for about 10 minutes. Inside the machine, sharp blades spin at high speed, continuously cutting the meat and fat into extremely fine particles. At the same time, the bowl underneath rotates slowly, making sure the entire batch passes through the blades again and again until the mixture becomes even. At this stage, the salt starts drawing protein out of the muscle fibers in the meat, forming a natural sticky layer. This protein layer surrounds the tiny fat particles, helping the fat, water, and meat come together into a smooth, stable meat emulsion. But this process has to be controlled very carefully, because the fast-spinning blades create friction and cause the mixture to warm up. So flake ice is added during cutting to keep the mixture cold and prevent it from going above 54 degrees Fahrenheit. As the process continues, the meat mixture slowly stops looking like regular ground meat. It turns into a thick, smooth paste, almost like a dense meat batter. Operators continuously monitor the smoothness, stickiness, and temperature of each batch. By the end of this step, the Bologna has its finished emulsion base. The finely ground meat mixture is then moved to the stuffing machine. First, the mixture is loaded into the hopper of a vacuum stuffer. Inside the machine, any air still trapped in the meat is pulled out before the mixture is pushed into the casing. At the front of the machine, workers attach Bologna casings to the stuffing nozzle. These are cellulose casings, strong enough to hold the meat mixture in a large cylinder during cooking, but still easy to peel off once the product is finished. For the type of Bologna that is sliced and sold in supermarkets, the mixture is stuffed into long, large-diameter chubs, with each one weighing about 4.4 pounds. As the machine runs, the meat emulsion is pushed into the casing under steady pressure. The machine has to fill it tightly enough so the Bologna keeps its shape, does not become soft or collapse, and does not leave empty spaces inside. Once each chub reaches the required length and weight, both ends are sealed with metal clips, forming a closed cylinder. Next, the Bologna chubs, now sealed at both ends, are either hung on racks or neatly arranged on stainless steel carts. These carts are then moved into an industrial cooking chamber. Unlike boiling in water, Bologna is cooked inside a sealed metal room where temperature, steam, and hot airflow are all precisely controlled. Once the chamber door closes, the system begins heating gradually so the Bologna cooks evenly from the outside to the center. Steam is injected into the chamber to keep the humidity steady, helping prevent the surface from drying out too quickly during the cooking process, which lasts about 6.5 hours. Inside the chamber, sensors continuously monitor the air temperature, humidity, and the internal temperature of the product. Some Bologna chubs are also fitted with temperature probes placed directly inside, so workers can know exactly when the center reaches the safe cooking temperature set by the factory. Only after the core of the product reaches the required cooking temperature is the full batch allowed to finish the heating cycle and move on to the cooling step. The stainless steel carts carrying the Bologna are moved out of the cooking chamber. At this point, the inside of each Bologna chub is fully cooked, but it is still very hot. So the Bologna is moved into a rapid chilling room to cool the product down quickly. Here, cold air is circulated by fans around each chub. The goal is to bring the core temperature down so the Bologna can be safely refrigerated. Once it has cooled completely, the Bologna becomes firmer. A few Bologna chubs from each batch are taken out for quality inspection. Workers slice the product to check the inside surface. A finished Bologna should have a smooth texture, even color, and no empty holes caused by trapped air. After the visual check, the product is also tested for flavor. Workers taste a small sample to check the salt level, the seasoning aroma, the richness, and the soft, smooth texture that Bologna is known for. After cooling, the Bologna is moved to the packaging area. For the half-chub version, the product is cut into sections at the correct weight, placed into food-safe bags, vacuum-sealed, and then heat-sealed. The packaging fits tightly around the Bologna, helping limit oxygen, preserve the color, and extend shelf life. For the sliced version, the Bologna chubs are chilled until they are firm enough to go into a high-speed slicer. The blade cuts the product into thin, even, round slices. The slices are arranged into portions, weighed to the correct amount, and then placed into trays or packaging bags. Once sealed and labeled, Each pack of Bologna is loaded into cardboard boxes and moved into cold storage, ready to be lined up neatly on supermarket shelves. And that is the full journey of Bologna inside the factory. It may not be the fanciest thing in the fridge, but it is definitely one of the most recognizable lunch meats in America. What about you? Do you like Bologna cold in a sandwich or pan-fried with crispy edges? Let me know in the comments below. This is Food Tech Today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have you ever wondered where vanilla, the familiar flavoring in ice cream, cookies, and cakes, actually comes from? Probably not, and that's exactly why today you're about to witness an incredible journey. Vanilla isn't just a flavoring. It's the second most expensive spice in the world, right after saffron. It finds its way into countless desserts, candies, and even plays a secret role as an ingredient in Coca-Cola's recipe. In recent years, the price of natural vanilla has skyrocketed, at times even more expensive than silver by weight, reaching as high as $500 per kilogram. Behind that price is painstaking, labor-intensive work. Farmers must hand-pollinate up to 40 million orchid blossoms. Only when pollination is successful do vanilla pods begin to grow, each filled with thousands of tiny seeds, the very essence of its signature flavor. So, what transforms a tiny seed into one of the world's most treasured and expensive spices? Let's uncover the magical journey of vanilla. About 80% of the world's vanilla supply is grown in the northeast region of Madagascar, where the climate is considered perfect for this crop. With its sweet, rich, and alluring aroma, vanilla has given Madagascar such fame that people often call it the island that perfumes the world. In the lush tropical forests, vanilla is still cultivated and cared for by hand, using delicate techniques passed down through generations. The stable, hot, humid climate and abundant tropical rains make the land incredibly fertile, nurturing the exceptional flavor and quality of Madagascar vanilla, widely regarded by chefs and food producers as the finest in the world. However, vanilla is the only orchid that bears fruit, and to do so, it must be pollinated entirely by hand. This process is painstaking and labor-intensive. If you've ever tried growing orchids at home, you know how challenging they are to care for. Imagine tending them in the middle of Madagascar's rainforests. A single major storm can wipe out an entire harvest, sending global vanilla prices into wild swings. The production of vanilla is a long journey, taking up to 11 months before this precious spice can be exported worldwide. On average, each vanilla plant yields only about 4 to 8 pounds of green pods, and harvesting takes place just once a year. Farmers must carefully monitor every stage to avoid missing the brief window for pollination. Since vanilla flowers bloom only in the morning and require a very specific pollination technique, growers must pay close attention to ensure they don't miss this fleeting opportunity. When the French brought vanilla vines to Madagascar in the 16th century, they failed to bear fruit for hundreds of years. This mystery was finally solved in the 1850s thanks to the invention of a young enslaved man named Edmund Albius. Using a small stick, much like a toothpick, he devised a hand pollination method, gently lifting the thin membrane that separates the pollen-bearing male part from the female part of the flower, then pressing them together. With this simple yet ingenious technique, the vanilla flower could finally be pollinated successfully. Amazingly, nearly 2 centuries later, Edmund Albius's method is still considered the only effective way to produce vanilla pods. The pollination season begins in September and lasts until December. Farmers use a small stick or needle to lift the thin membrane inside the flower, separating the male and female parts so the pollen can fertilize the ovule. The technique requires lifting one part and pressing it down, but with just the right amount of force, not too hard, not too soft. If pressed too lightly, the flower resets to its original state. If pressed too hard, the flower may break and pollination fails, causing it to drop. During heavy rains, flowers absorb too much water and must be discarded, since they would fall off naturally anyway. Even though a vanilla vine produces many branches and flowers, farmers cannot pollinate all of them. Instead, they select only a few flowers to ensure the quality and proper development of the vanilla pods. For the best results, no more than 10 flowers per vine should be pollinated. This way, the pods grow larger, meatier, and healthier. If every flower were pollinated, the vine would weaken, become susceptible to disease, and eventually wither. The rule is simple. Choose 10 and leave the rest for another time. Each grower and their team must repeat this process hundreds of times per day, on every vine. On average, one person pollinates around 500 flowers daily. In Madagascar, this adds up to roughly 40 million vanilla orchids pollinated each season, every single one by hand. Pollination can only be done in the morning while the flowers are open, because by noon they wilt and lose the ability to be fertilized. Farmers usually rise at dawn to begin the delicate work, making sure to finish before midday. Only then will the vanilla pods begin to form. Inside each pod are the seeds and aromatic oils that flavor some of the world's most beloved desserts. From there, it's a 9-month wait, like carrying a baby. The work isn't particularly complicated, but it demands time, patience, and skill. After pollination, farmers must continue careful maintenance, such as weeding every 3 months. The frequency depends on how tall and fast the weeds grow, which varies with the soil conditions in each vanilla field. Just imagine, Madagascar has around 40 million vanilla orchid flowers. In terms of labor, that makes vanilla one of the most expensive crops in the world. After pollination, the flower quickly withers, giving way to a slender green capsule that begins to grow, the vanilla pod. Over the next 8 to 9 months, the pod slowly matures, reaching a length of 5 to 9 inches. At this stage, the outer skin remains a deep green and gives off no fragrance, since the aromatic compounds have yet to develop. For the pods to grow evenly, the vine requires warm temperatures, stable humidity, and just the right amount of shade. But this fragility comes with enormous value. Over the past decade, vanilla prices have skyrocketed due to rising global demand and repeated harvests devastated by tropical storms. In 2018, prices nearly hit $600 per kilogram, higher than silver. Prices later dropped to around $250 but have since hovered near $400. To control volatility, the Madagascar government even set a price floor of $250 per kilogram. Such lucrative prices, however, bring another problem: rampant theft. Farmers must guard their fields day and night, with many forced to carry makeshift weapons as they patrol in the darkness. At one point, authorities estimated that up to 8% of the annual crop was stolen. Some farmers harvest pods early, before they fully ripen, to avoid losing everything. But this reduces quality and drives prices down. Worse still, since vanilla has only one harvest per year, many thieves are in fact impoverished local children. Countless minors have been imprisoned in overcrowded, unsanitary jails, enduring years of detention without ever facing a trial. After about 9 months, the pods are ready to harvest. When they become overripe, the tip near the stem begins to split, a clear sign of peak maturity. Harvesters must act quickly and cannot wait too long. On the other hand, if the pods are picked too early, they are more likely to mold or ferment during curing, and their flavor and vanillin content will be reduced. The best time to harvest is after 8 to 9 months, when the pods are richest in aroma and essential oils. Farmers must watch closely. When the tip of the green vanilla pod starts turning yellow and small black specks appear along the body, it's time to harvest. For the crop to be considered market-ready, pods must measure between 6 and 10 inches in length. The vanillin content is also crucial, typically ranging from 1.5% to 2.5%. Because not all flowers bloom at the same time, the pods do not ripen uniformly. Ideally, each pod should be picked individually at the right stage to ensure the best quality. If left too long, the pods split open, lowering their value. In reality, however, most farmers are forced to harvest everything at once to prevent theft. After harvesting, the precious pods are placed into woven baskets or sacks weighing about 40 pounds. Freshly picked vanilla is then carried back to the village. slung over shoulders, balanced on heads, or transported along narrow trails and dugout canoes. The vanilla pods are brought together at a central market, where they are sorted by quality according to size. Pods with a good shape and packed with seeds are considered premium quality. The seeds themselves are often referred to as the caviar of vanilla, a mark of high grade. However, since the pods do not ripen all at once, sorting requires significant manual labor using traditional methods. Each grade is sold at a different price. At these gathering points, security is also ensured by armed forces to keep the area safe. Locally, vanilla sells for about $60 per kilogram, while in the United States, it can reach up to $500 per kilogram. Growers and buyers negotiate until they agree on a final price. Once the green vanilla market closes, all the pods are packed into sacks and transported to processing plants. There, they undergo the curing process that transforms them into the dark brown beans we all recognize. These facilities produce more than 30 tons of vanilla each year, all of it high quality and fully ripened on the vine. When the sacks of vanilla arrive at the processing plant, they must first pass through strict security controls. The entire facility is surrounded by barbed wire fencing, monitored by 24/7 surveillance cameras, and guarded by a security team on constant watch. First, the freshly harvested vanilla pods are thoroughly washed with water. This simple yet crucial step removes dirt, sand, and other impurities from their surface. Sorting is a continuous task throughout vanilla processing. The first round takes place before blanching, while the pods are still green, based on their length, ripeness, and whether the skin has begun to split. Freshly harvested vanilla pods are initially very stiff and brittle. To make them pliable, they must be blanched in hot water. This step softens the pods, halts further growth, and triggers the chemical reactions that create aroma compounds, most importantly vanillin, which makes up about 90% of vanilla's signature flavor. To do this, the sorted pods are placed into large wicker baskets, each holding around 55 to 66 pounds, then submerged in 149 degrees Fahrenheit water for 3 minutes. After blanching, the pods move into the sweating stage, where they begin turning dark brown. This process reduces moisture, concentrates flavor, and allows vanilla's sweet fragrance to develop. Still warm, the pods are placed into wooden boxes lined with layers of blankets to retain heat for as long as possible. The boxes are sealed for 48 hours. By the end of this sweating stage, the pods have turned a deep brown and are ready for drying. Drying vanilla takes place in 2 phases, sun drying and shade drying. This step is crucial for the pods to develop their full aroma and color. The beans are spread evenly over cloth and laid in the sun for 3 to 5 hours a day for many consecutive days, and are frequently turned to ensure even drying. As they are handled, skilled workers gently massage the pods to release oils and enhance fragrance. However, they cannot be left in the sun all day, as the pods must retain some moisture to allow the flavor to continue developing. After sun drying, the vanilla is covered and stored overnight, then laid out again the next day. After about 10 to 15 days of sun exposure, the pods move on to shade drying in a ventilated environment, lasting 1 to 2 months. Throughout this time, the beans are frequently turned and sorted. The slow drying process allows the pods to gradually lose moisture, fully develop their complex flavor, and prevents mold from forming. The refining stage is the final step in vanilla processing. Before the pods can be graded, ranked, and prepared for export, they must first be refined. The beans are placed into wooden chests lined with parchment paper, or better yet, wax paper, which protects them from outside air, prevents mold, and preserves their fragrance. This process not only enhances the beans' aroma and color, but also increases their vanillin content. The final grading takes place after refining, based on size, moisture, flexibility, color, quality, and whether the pods have split. Once sorted, the vanilla beans are bundled into small bunches, tied with raffia string, and packed into wooden crates or cardboard boxes for export. Out of all the cured vanilla beans, Only about 20 to 30% of the highest quality pods are selected to be refined into convenient bottled vanilla extract. The process begins with grinding. The beans are cut into small pieces about 1.5 centimeters long. This increases surface area, exposing more of the bean so the solvent can penetrate and extract maximum flavor. Next, the vanilla is placed into a central extraction system. Here, the company uses a cold extraction method carried out at room temperature. Over the course of 3 to 5 weeks, water and alcohol are continuously circulated through the vanilla pieces. The alcohol draws out the essential oils and aromatic compounds, preserving the complex natural bouquet that faster heat-based methods often destroy. The result is a premium extract with a deep, nuanced flavor. Once extraction is complete, the mixture is passed through filters to remove bean particles, then transferred into large stainless steel tanks. At this stage, technicians adjust the alcohol-to-water ratio, typically standardized at around 35% alcohol. This is followed by a stabilization period lasting several weeks, or even months, allowing the flavors to fully meld and softening the sharp, boozy notes. When the extract meets quality standards, it is pumped through a sterile bottling line. Dark glass bottles are used to protect the extract from light, which can alter flavor, while tightly sealed caps or tamper-proof closures ensure the product maintains its rich quality for years without spoiling. But remember, at least 95% of products labeled vanilla on the market don't involve farmers at all, and in fact, contain no real vanilla. Synthetic vanilla can be produced in a lab at just 1/30 of the cost. It's made from vanillin, a chemical extracted from wood, that only replicates one out of more than 250 natural flavor compounds found in true vanilla. As a result, its taste is narrower and far less complex than the real thing. So next time you hear someone use vanilla as a synonym for bland, keep in mind that authentic vanilla is anything but ordinary. In processing plants, every single bean goes through a painstaking journey to become a premium flavoring, delivering a sweet, captivating aroma that nothing else can match. That essence is what gives vanilla its true value, a richness that fake vanilla products only diminish but can never equal.